It's noon at Thruxton Aerodrome. 43 riders roar away to start the Southampton Club's national 9-hour race, the longest held in Britain. Machines are in 3 classes, 350, 500, 750. But the bike that greatest distance wins. Reliability counts just as much as speed. There's a blue sky, a brilliant sun. The temperature's in the 80s. It's just the day for keeping cool on a racing bike as it hurtles along at speed. Down there, 43 men on their snarling, snaking machines begin to settle in on the first lap, the first of over 200. Thruxton rarely hears the sound of motorcycle exhausts. Usually the only noise is the buzz of light aircraft on flying instruction or giving brief flips for visitors. Where once military planes thundered along the runways leaving for battle, only gentlemanly moths and osters now reside. That was the setting 1 week before June the 29th, 1957. There's more to staging a race meeting than issuing the regulations and listing the entries. Scaffolding has to be erected to make the pits. Amateur navvies get plenty of exercise, banging in stakes for the roped-off areas. About 4 miles of cable are laid, giving a telephone service to all parts of the course. On race day, every incident can be immediately reported. To keep spectators in the picture, a large scoreboard is got ready by club member and professional signwriter Arthur Burt and his wife. There's a job for every member, and the Southampton Club's own Norton outfit is hacked around carrying bodies and gear. The work continues through the day, quietly and methodically, while the tiny aircraft of the flying school hum around in the sunshine and land gently and gracefully on the grass field. In the background there is part of the perimeter track in the new all-perimeter circuit. The runways are so wide that in parts old oil drums are placed in position to mark the course, and straw bales are used at the chicane in case someone makes a mistake. And just to show that being clerk of the course and secretary of the meeting is not a full-time job, here's Neville Goss doing a spot of real work. But somebody knows how to dodge the column. The professionals are at it too, cutting and scooping up the grass to make Thruxton look specially shipshape, and the runways are swept clear of grit and stones accumulated since the last meeting. In 10 years of neglect, the weeds have become firmly rooted. The once smooth concrete is now as bumpy as a third-rate road. Race morning, and it's as quiet as ever in Thruxton village. But there's a new sign on the signpost, and at the circuit, a mile away, it's far from quiet. Many competitors and officials have arrived overnight, and around 8 o'clock in the morning, breakfast sausages are sizzling in the pan. Of course, there are plenty of last-minute jobs to do on the bikes, because scrutineering starts in half an hour. Here's one of the riders, Peter Bugden, getting tools from his van. In a 9-hour race, a few running repairs are certain to be required, and every entrant sees to it that he's got a good selection of tools and spares. These are for Raymond Holland's 350 BSA, to be ridden by Michael Brooks and Anthony Butler. No, this 30-year-old Scot isn't racing today, nor is this. By 8:30, riders and mechanics are at the scrutineer's tent, where a check is made to see that machines are not only race-worthy, but are properly equipped. They have to comply with Clubman's race specification, including silencers and lighting. What's more, the lights have to be in working order. These machines are roadsters, not racers. With this Royal Enfield Super Meteor are the riders, Derek Powell and Brian Newman. There's Eddie Dow, a former winner of the Clubman's Isle of Man race, today riding Arthur Taylor's Velocette. Behind this Gold Star BSA are Ned Minihan and last year's winner, the mustachioed Ken James. Yes, it's already jolly hot. Number 20 is the 500 Beezer to be ridden by Michael Mundy and Derek Edmonds. This is a similar model to be handled by Bob Lilly and Ernie Hall. It's almost 10 o'clock and the machines are being taken out to the track for the start of practice. All riders must cover at least 3 laps. There's an hour in which to do it. Some riders have never competed at Thruxton before and need to learn the circuit from scratch. And even the most experienced like to get themselves in key on the actual day. And that goes too for young Johnny with his 2-foot power tricycle. The road closing car has done its tour. The practice lappery starts. Nobody is in any particular hurry at first. There's not only the weighing up of the bends and corners to worry about. The riding position and control setting must be the best compromise to suit the 2 riders of each machine. Well, even if some people can cut themselves off from the excitement and sneak a quiet snooze, there's little rest for mechanics and riders. For instance, there's a spot of work wanted on the Chivers Brothers BSA. This Triumph Tiger 110 is to be ridden by 2 local men, Ray Hammond and Jack Walton. James Winfield's Triumph there is in big end trouble and has to be withdrawn. Practicing's over and noon approaches. The club hack has been chuffing around as officials get everything in apple pie order. Marshals are in position, timekeepers have synchronized their watches. Our aircraft takes off and circles round to show us the busy scene in the pits, with the machines being lined up ready for the start. Out front, Chief Timekeeper Vic Anstis tunes up the orchestra. Panic work on Alcock's BSA. A few seconds to go. First clear of Club Corner is Derek Powell on the largest machine in the race, a 700cc Royal Enfield Super Meteor Twin entered by Sid Norton. Powell is one of Britain's best private entry jockeys. He's had plenty of experience on all the popular short circuits and in the Isle of Man. Already he has an 80-yard lead, but behind him the field is fairly closely grouped. At Club, the circuit leaves the runway for the perimeter track, not a yard of which seems to run in a straight line when you're on full bore. There's a long, sweeping right-hander, then a left to the wide right curve of Windy Corner. From this height, the surface looks like a billiards table. In fact, it's so darn bumpy that the suspension gets a real pounding. Only machines with absolutely first-class steering can be kept on line. A left-hand curve after Windy leads into the long right sweep of Horizon Bend that keeps going on and on to the sharp right off the perimeter and onto the runway at Anchor Corner. This runway is farm straight, but includes that little diversion formed by straw bales. Then comes the sharp left at Ashton Corner into the home straight, where there's a tight chicane just before the flag line and the end of the lap. First man through is Derek Powell holding onto his lead. 27 is Ernie Ecott on a 500 BSA. 47, Ray Hamilton's Triumph. 28, another 500 BSA with Graham Stroud up. Then come Ernie Washer, Dick Carman, John Eckert, Geoffrey Hughes, Len Dunn and Fred Webber. Second lap. Powell's big Royal Enfield is going like a bomb. It's almost certainly the fastest machine out today, and Derek is riding in beautiful style. He's taking advantage of a clear track ahead and quite effortlessly widening his margin over Ernie Ecott, who's leading the 500s. While the others are at club corner, Powell is way along the curves leading up to Windy. They're fairly close together, 350s, 500s and 650s mixed, with Ernie Washer well forward and leading the 350 class. Over there along the back section, a cornfield borders the track. That's just as well for Neil Vivian when he gets into a wobble and leaves the tarmac. He's unhurt, and the Gold Star BSA is none the worse except for a bent handlebar and twisted headlamp mounting. In fact, getting the machine out of the corn and straightening things up took no more than a quarter of an hour. Vivian was then away again, having lost perhaps 6 laps. How's that for a bit of neat harvesting? Meanwhile, the others have been pressing on round Horizon, Anchor and Ashton to the chicane just before the pits, through the start and along to club. 4th lap. Alan Walker misjudges club and he's off. Black Mark Walker. Let's listen to the effects, Mike. Aye, aye, that's enough of that. Seriously, that prang really is hard luck. The only damage is a broken handlebar, but no spare is available and the BSA has to be withdrawn. The race is half an hour old when Barry Payton has to make a pit stop. And so does Alan Waite with his Tiger 100. Ray Barrett takes over and Waite's Triumph rejoins the race. At club, Webber sneaks ahead of Chivers. They're both on 350s and have been swapping places for quite a few laps. In the pits, Eddie Davies makes a 2-minute stop to change a plug. It's 1:45, and Derek Powell is still leading handsomely on his 19th lap. He's averaging well over 70. Here's Fred Webber again, sweeping neatly through the chicane. He's 3rd in the 350 class. Just before the end of the first hour, Lionel Dunn's Veloset comes into the pits with a flabby back tyre. They have the wheel out pretty quickly, but the Velo is delayed for best part of 10 minutes and dropped right back. 1 hour gone, and Derek Powell leads. Second is Wyndham Tardival, riding a Norton Dominator entered by Southampton Club President Alec Bennett. Third is Hughes, 650 Triumph, then Ecott, Carman, Washer on BSAs. They've all covered 25 laps. Although quite a few riders have had stops for one thing or another, 41 machines are on the course, 8 hours to go. French is out of fuel and shoves his Velo almost a mile in the sweltering heat to reach the pits. Ray Hammond's Triumph comes in for its first refuel. He's having trouble engaging all gears except top. During this half hour after 1 o'clock, most machines are making fuel stops. Under the regulations, no rider may do more than a 2-hour stint. Hammond's gear pedal is being tightened, but Jack Watton, who takes over, is soon away. It's been a long, long push for French, but he's made it, and the Velo is still in the race. They fill up, give the model a quick check, and Stanley Brand takes over. Another refueling stop. John Tickle comes in with his 500 BSA to hand over to co-rider Vincent Graham. They're way down the list and are a lap behind the fast lads, but of course in a race of this length, steady, consistent running can pay dividends in the end. And here's the leader, Derek Powell. After an hour and 20 minutes, Powell has a break, while Newman presses on with the Royal Enfield. At about this time, there are so many pit stops that it's difficult to work out exactly who is leading in each class. But 43, the Hughes Triumph, is the second 750, and number 1, the BSA of James, has a nice lead in the 350 class. More pit stops. 33 is Bill Phillips, and his 500 BSA is being taken over by Ken Howell. Number 3 is the 350 BSA ridden by Rutherford and Washer. On number 21 there, Ernie Hall takes over from Bob Lilly. Geoffrey Hughes at the chicane. He's leading now because the Powell-Newman Royal Enfield has been delayed by a leaking fuel tank. Ernie Hall pushes off. There's no rule about using kick-starters after pit stops, and most riders run start. 2 hours gone. Overall, Hughes and Stevens, 650 Triumph first, Argent and Ecott, 500 BSA second, Powell and Newman, 700 Royal Enfield third. 750 class, Hughes and Stevens. 500 class, Argent and Ecott. 350 class, James and Minion, BSA. Brian Newman at Anchor Corner. Farther along at the chicane, he's just behind Minion. There's Castrol's Jimmy Hill in the pits. 9, Avery, 28, Bugden, 2, Hamilton. That cryptic message is showing a rider that he's just lapped in 2 minutes, 18 seconds. 40 is Tardiville's Norton. He's pranged at Horizon Bend. Hard luck because he was third in the 750 class at the time. We ought to whisper this. Wyndham Tardiville is chief instructor of the Southampton Club's learner training scheme. Let's hope none of his pupils is watching. While they wait their next turn in the saddle, riders have a cup of tea and a gossip. But pit attendants have no time to relax. By 3 o'clock, the Rutherford Washer BSA has covered 77 laps and leads the entire field. Washer takes over again after this fill-up. Avery hands over to Webber. They've covered 74 laps. The Powell Newman Royal Enfield is still in trouble with a split tank. It's leaking like a sieve. Another tank is fitted, but it's a botched up one that sprang a leak during practice. They're still second in their class, but have covered only 73 laps. Suddenly, rain lashes down, and everyone takes cover. 4 o'clock, the track is awash, and speeds drop. With 99 laps covered, 350 BSAs hold the first 3 places. Rutherford and Washer, James and Minion, Eckhart and Wallace. Leading 500 is the Velocet of Hill and Chapman with 98 laps. In the 750 class, Hughes and Stevens, Triumph, 97 laps, still lead. .4:15 and the leading BSA is in trouble. They try to locate the cause of a misfire, refueling at the same time. While they work, in comes the Chivers brothers, 350 Beezer. The long pit stop has cost number 3 the lead, but the BSA is away again, but not for long. The misfiring was magneto trouble, and that was that. Eckhart and Wallace now lead the race. The rain has stopped, but the track is glistening wet and slippery. Last one in the line there is the Hughes-Stevens Triumph, still leading the 750 class. One of the Watton brothers comes in at 4:30 at the same time as John Eckert on the leading BSA. With full tanks, Fred Wallace pushes off number 4, still leading by about a minute over James and Minion. And here is Ken James in for fuel, literally on Wallace's heels. Perhaps this chap can't sit down to his food, and he's more than ordinarily thirsty, apparently. No, you can't beat the ladies at a brewer. They've been at it all day, that or frying sausages. Here's the Hall and Woodman BSA in for refueling, and the rest. 5 hours gone. Track's more or less dry, and speeds are climbing again. Wallace and Eckhart in the lead are lapping at around 70, and have covered 122 laps. James and Minion, 121 laps, are second, and Hill and Don Chapman on their Velocet Venom are third with 120 laps and lead the 500s. With 117 laps, Hughes and Stevens lead the 750s. Number 5 pulls in for a routine stop. They adjust the rear chain as well as fill up the tanks. It's the 350 BSA ridden by Tom Morris and Brian Sims in 15th place. In each hour, they've lost about 3 laps to the leaders, and in the 5 hours have covered 105 laps. Here's Ned Minion, again riding in his usual polished style and still holding second place. And Fred Wallace going equally well and not likely to lose the lead if he keeps cracking. Somebody is in 8th place. Retired bikes behind the pits include number 3, the Rutherford Washer BSA. It's cooler after the rain, but not much, and the youngsters are getting sleepy. The lap scorers can't afford to relax. 43 is the Hughes-Stevens Triumph, leading the 750s. Tony Godfrey tells Hamilton he's lapped in 2:24. Make what you like of the core. 5:40. The leading bike is in trouble. Wallace has pushed in with a dead magneto. They get going again, but James and Minion now lead on the 350 BSA that won in 1956, when James was partnered by Ivor Lloyd. In the pits now is the Watton brothers' Triumph. It has caught the split tank disease, and they put in over a quarter of an hour's nifty work before the Triumph is off again. Yes, the Eckhart-Wallace BSA is still circulating, but is soon to retire. That's the leader, and number 20 is the Monday Edmonds BSA, followed by the Powell Newman Royal Enfield. Here's an optimist. There goes the Watton Triumph. It's 6:15 and still hot enough for riders to want to relax. Hard luck Eddie Davis and John Hamilton. They covered 142 laps and then the big end packed up. There have been 13 retirements so far, but most of the remaining 30 machines are still going well. Some of them have had long pit stops, and there are as many as 20 laps difference between the leaders, James and Minion, and the tail-enders. 7 o'clock, 2 hours to go. Through the chicane comes the leading BSA, and then the Weber-Avery BSA in second place. Hughes and Stevens on their Triumph are third and lead the 750 class. By 7:20, Ken James is the first to cover 500 miles to win the Castrol Trophy. He's all set to repeat his last year's 9-hour win. But is he? On his 184th lap, just before 8 o'clock, James is pushing a dead BSA along Farm Straight. He shoves with all his strength under a sun, which keeps the temperature near the 80s. By the time he approaches the pits, he's almost flaked out, having pushed for over a mile. James just about makes it, but his wonderful effort is fruitless. The crank pin has fractured. Weber and Avery, number 9, now lead with 192 laps covered, 3 more than Hughes and Stevens, number 43, on their Tiger 110. There's Ken James, more or less recovered and swapping condolences with co-rider Minion. Rex Avery's on number 9. And the Hughes-Stevens Triumph is second, but nearly 2 laps down. Another fill-up for the Powell Newman Super Meteor. It's past 8:30, the sun sinking low. There's the second-place Triumph on its 205th lap, and the leading BSA on its 207th. Including stops, they're averaging over 66 miles an hour. 9 o'clock, and the winning BSA races to the flag. Weber and Avery have covered 601 miles at an average of 67 miles an hour. Hughes and Stevens, Triumph Tiger 110 a second, with 592 miles at 66. Powell and Newman, Royal Enfield a third. Of the 43 starters, only 21 finished. It's been a really tough race.